Hello, everyone. Welcome. We want to thank you for sharing your time with us this morning. And today we're going to cover some of the most important new features in this latest release of sapio365, release 1.6. And today, to take us through the demo, is our product manager, Sonia Bunarjan. And first, for those who might be new, Sonia, welcome. And how about you tell us a little bit about who we are?
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So in case this is the first time you're attending a Y-Trio webinar, here's a little background on us. My next slide. So we've been building tools for admins since 1999 for companies all over the world. And the latest addition is our software, sapio365, specifically geared to make Office 365 administration much, much easier. How, you ask? Well, sapio365 gives you 360-degree visibility into your tenant's data and the tools to analyze it and to change anything in there, all from a single glass pane.
And so can you tell us why people would use sapio365?
Well, that's my next slide, right? Unlike browser-based tools, first of all, sapio365 is a thick client installed onto a PC. This means that your data is not accessed by Y-Trio servers. Simply install and go. Secondly, sapio365 gives you access to all your Office 365 data, users, groups, sites, and settings. And Office 365 admin centers, all those the list of admin centers that you see, they're great for drill downs. But what if you don't know what you're looking for? Well, we've got global views to help you see things you wouldn't normally know to look for. Now, thirdly, everyone knows that PowerShell is the go-to tool for large-scale updates and exporting report data. Now, it's fantastic when you've got time for scripts and when it all works out, but you're usually going in blind. We show you what you're changing before you actually save those changes. And with sapio365, you can use filters, sorting, grouping, and other tools until the information makes sense for a report, and there's no coding needed. And finally, we have a built-in role-based access control, where every action in sapio365 is a permission that can be combined in any which way for a mix of users, groups, sites that are set as scopes. And also, all this delegation can be done on several tenants, but all managed in one place.
Okay, so what are we covering in today's demo?
Well, you know what? Although the recent release has several new additions, and I'd love to talk about them all, we're just going to be highlighting some of the more interesting ones today. We'll start by looking at scheduling tasks, specifically team-related tasks, and followed by the new sapio365 access restrictions. Now, this is in addition to the delegating tools we have already. Next, we'll see how you can limit the number of entries when loading sign-in or audit log reports. And finally, we'll look at the document management tools that we've added with a quick scenario of copying files to several document libraries. We're going to basically upload some files to several groups at once. And then we'll wrap things up with what to look forward to in the next release.
Okay, so while you're spinning up the demo.
Right, let me share my screen here.
And we still have some additional people joining us as we just get started this morning. This will be quite a short session.
That's great. All right, so does everyone see my screen?
I'm good here.
Okay, great. Okay. So this is what you see when you launch sapio365. It's just an executable file, and once you launch it, this is what you see. To orient those of you who are new to sapio365, let's just start on how to sign in, really. Basically, I'll sign in here with my credentials. And this is using the Microsoft authentication process. So And once you do this, you get connected to all the data in your Azure AD. So here you go. And by the way, remember I told you that you can manage several tenants at the same time. Every time you sign in, your sign-ins are they're kept over here. And all you have to do to switch between them and just click on one. In fact, as a global admin, I'm also able to create an app from here using this button that gives me access to users' mailboxes and SharePoint data without me changing anything in Azure AD. I don't have to put myself as owner of a mailbox or a site collection to get access to that data. So I have one right here, and all I have to do to get that is just switch over. Now, before we head on over to scheduling some tasks, I'd like to show you where you can actually find some and how they relate to sapio365 in general. To do that, let's look at what we have here. So here we have our major entryways, users, groups, sites. Each of these has its own related tasks. So let's just go to our groups module. And we'll just use an existing one. So once we get here, here you go. So for example, let's take a look at our groups. These are all my groups, and they include all the 4 types of groups, including dynamic groups. And you can find them, if you can find them in the admin center, they're going to be here. And these are all their properties on the right. You can just scroll here. You can add more properties if you wish from here. Whatever it is that you're interested in, or whatever makes it clearer for you. Now, once I have all this, I have the ribbon up here, which allows me to carry out some actions on my groups, such as editing them, creating them, managing the members, the owners, looking at their files, and everything here. So all these actions can be automated. So what we've done is we've created some macros, and here they are. These are all ready to be used with one click of a button. They are automated tasks, and we call them our job center, jobs really. This automated manipulation of data, it brings us to the result we want to see. Normally, we'd be doing this manually, but we like to get things much quicker. So let's take a look at one that we've just added for groups. This one here, find the last date groups were emailed. Now, this is an interesting one because it was asked by a user who wanted to know if he should get rid of certain distribution groups that were no longer used. And honestly, I looked online and there wasn't a real way to find that. So what we've done here is we've created a job that can do this because we have access to everybody's mailbox. Let's just pick a couple of distribution groups. I've just sorted them here, and I'll pick my finance and my Northwind traders here. And once I've picked them, I click on the job. I set, my calendar, the date that I want to look up to. And once I run it, I'll get that. I'll wait for the results. I mean, it all depends on how many members you have in those groups, because what we're doing is we're looking at the mailboxes of those group members. And of course, this works only as long as at least one member has retained the email sent to his group. I mean, if everybody has deleted the email, you probably won't be able to find it. So the job finished here. And what I have here is that the finance team and the Northwind traders have some oh, 1 second. I lost this is the one that I needed. So part of the job here was to add in the last time the email was sent to these groups. So here I have this column. This was a newly created column, and that was part of the job. And this is saved locally or in Cosmos DB if you have it set up. So what you can do is you can run this job, and all it's going to do, it's going to update the last time the groups were emailed. So it's a very nice a report to have, especially if you have a whole bunch of distribution groups that you're not sure of. Now that we've seen a job in action, let's go scheduling. Let's go schedule one. Unfortunately, for now, we can't schedule them from here. The ones that we can schedule, we have to go back to the main page. And here we go to the back into the Job Center configuration. And these are the list of automated tasks we've added that don't require an initial selection like we did, like you just saw before, where I had to select the groups that we were going to run the jobs on. We'll be adding new jobs constantly here, some simple ones like views and others more specific to users' needs. If you'd like to see yours here, I'd love to get your ideas. I mean, because really we built this for you. These are all shortcuts that will improve the way you work. And as an example, let's schedule this job over here. Groups and teams with shared files. So for instance, say that you want to be notified whenever there's a file being shared anonymously within your groups. Right? So what we can do is we can schedule a job that runs on a weekly basis, and it's going to search through all your group site files to see if any of them have been shared anonymously. All I have to do is select the job and press the scheduling button. This reference name is the name that you will see in the Windows Task Scheduler, because that is the tool that we're using to schedule it. We're not using anything else, since this is all local on your PC, we're using the tool that you already have. So let's just give it a nice name that we'll be able to find again. This shares in groups. There you go. We schedule it on a weekly basis. We'll say, okay, run it every Monday at this time. The next we can specify in which tenant we want to run the job. Now, this is very interesting for those of you who are managing several tenants at once. So if you want to schedule a task like this, you can schedule it for every tenant that you're responsible for. So for instance, this one, I will choose this. And I'll generate a report here, which will save it here by default. And then I have a choice of getting a notification with the report as an attachment. So I'll send it to myself as the admin, the global admin. And here. Oh, actually, I already have it. There you go. So next. And here you go. And now I have the choice of all the various options of the sharing scenarios from the file. So this is what I'm interested in. I just give it a name. Anonymous. So what we have here is we have these two scheduled reports set to run weekly. This was a previous one that I had set up this morning. And they're set to run every Monday. Just to make sure, why don't we go into our Windows Task Scheduler just to find out if they're there. So here you go in my task schedule library, and this is where you'll find it with the same information. So what we're doing essentially is giving you a way of controlling the tasks that you want to run on a recurrent basis using the Windows Task Scheduler. But you don't have to go here to manage it. You can just manage it from here. If I want to end this, all I have to do is remove it, and that's it. Or if I want to just clean everything up, there you go. So looking at this, getting back to the Job Configuration Center, we have some really interesting ones. These are all new. Most of them are new, actually. For instance, the show external email forwarding rules for all users. I mean, one of our customers basically wanted to make sure that nobody was forwarding emails to external emails and the external people. So if you're worried about security, this is a very good one to run. Or if you want to make sure that you don't have, your groups all have owners, you can just set this up so that it's going to find all those groups. And you can just scour your tenant week after week or daily if you wish. Then you have this one that will check your sign-ins, the sign-ins report that's available in sapio365, and it will cross-reference it to the whole list of all your users to find out which of your users haven't signed in since a specific time within the 30 days that the entries that you have. And this one is just a simple way of finding a specific string in the mail subject, looking through everyone's messages. Now it's optimized to just look at the subject line, because if we look at the whole body content and everything, it will take much longer. Then again, you can always modify this job to look through the body as well and run it during off hours. I mean, all of these jobs can be run during the off hours and just not to interrupt part of your day. And this one over here was interesting because one of our users wanted to identify potentially corrupt files, and something that happens here after a migration. So this job scours your SharePoint library and finds all the files that have a 0-byte size and gives you a nice report of them. Afterwards, you can do what you like with them and carry on from there. Like I said before, we will be adding way more over here. This was just an initial view that we give you of the various jobs that we have available. We're working constantly on adding them. Please, again, what would you guys like us to add here? Feel free to post in the chat or in the Q&A, something specific to your situation. Now let's talk about restricting certain parts of Sapio365. I mean, as a global admin, I have access to everything. The RBAC configuration, these are my roles that I created for my users, the comment history, all the comments that have been posted by users in the company, and the user activity logs, which basically show you what people have been have been changing using Sapio365 specifically. And so most of my users can see only the views from their computer. As a global admin, I can see the ones here. Well, if I'm connected to Cosmos DB, of course. Right now I'm not. That's why you have no data. Anyway, so these parts of our control system here, we've elaborated on it by creating these roles, because normally you have to be a global admin to have access to all that, and sometimes it's just not practical. You want to delegate these specific activities to certain people. So here you are. All you have to do is just select them and assign a user. There you go. So Pradeep is the one that can see everybody's activity logs, to make sure that whatever they changed, whatever they, with Sapio365. Next, something new that we've added is the sign-in reports and the audit logs. Now, these two modules, if we just go back here into our main screen here, if we look at our sign-in reports and our audit logs, you'll note that these two were added in the previous release, and that was in August, really. And so they're pretty new. And there was an issue that one of our users had in the sense that when he clicked on the sign-ins report, he had just so many entries within the last 30 days that it was just taking forever to load. So he wanted something to limit. And since we had already installed this kind of limiting the date range for our messages, we did the same thing for the sign-in reports and the audit logs. So here, let's just say we want to get the sign-ins in the last week. Oops. So here you go. So right now, if you look at the dates, since October 24th, so it's about a week, right? And from here, I can just see, hey, let me see who's had successful sign-in and from which city. So you can see that all these guys have been signing in, and some of them have been signing in from different cities within the same week. And it's a very interesting thing because they'll kind of alert you to maybe some potential password thefts or something like that. Of course, or just these people are using VPNs like I did to set this up. So the same thing, the same limitations that we set up for sign-ins are available in audit logs as well. And audit logs are basically, this is where you see who's changed what. So if you want to see who's added a group member or deleted some users or anything else like that. Now, I wanted to finish up by looking at what we've added to manage some files. And to do that, let's just go to our groups. Here we have our groups. And since we're going to be looking at files, I'm only interested in my Office 365 groups. So let me just filter everything else out. Right, select everything and get their files. So the speed of this loading really depends on how much information you have and the processing power of your computer. And the fun thing is, those of you who've been using sapio365 a lot, you'll notice that we now show you a little glimpse of what's been loaded and what's left. Here you go. So these are my groups and all the files that are available on their sites. So for our demonstration, say we have a bunch of files that we want to add to a few group site libraries. I know in Office 365 you have you can upload them very easily, but it's usually going to be done one group at a time. So let's just say, hey, let's add these three. I want to upload this folder, this folder full of templates, for instance, right? So before I do that, let me just create a folder in each one so that it makes sense. We'll call it a README folder. Once it's created, we can see it here. Then we save this. You have to save them before you actually upload them. Okay. Okay, there you go. So this means that it was saved. So by the way, so every addition that you make in Sapio 365, it's like a two-step process. You make the change and you see what's about to change and then you save it. It gives you a way to review what you're about to change. So now let's select these folders in these various groups and say I want to import the whole folder of files. Let's go to my desktop. There you go, select the folder, import everything. And here you go. So it has a lot of stuff. And these are all new, right? Because of this status indication. So once you're happy with this, all you have to do is save everything. And voila. So I just gave you an example of uploading a bunch of files to several groups, but you can also do this to several users' OneDrives as well. And yeah, so this kind of brings us to the end of our demo, really. Are there any questions? David, I don't see any questions. Do you?
No.
No?
No, not at
Okay.
this time, I think. But can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up in the things to come in our pipeline?
Yes, of course. Let me just change my sharing screen to the presentation. Okay. Well, you know, we've got lots of exciting features coming. We're already working on adding new things. I don't know if you noticed, but over here. Oh, sorry, let me just share it back. I was going to share my screen, but I wanted to show you something in the files module that we were looking at just now. I wonder if you noticed this check in, check out features. So these are part of the new things that we're going to be adding, as well as editing team settings, creating team channels, cloning teams, a lot of team-related activity, archiving, unarchiving teams as well. And this is all about doing things on a mass scale, of course. We're also going to implement SharePoint site permissions, and that's going to be very, very interesting. Microsoft keeps adding new graph APIs all the time, and we do our best to incorporate them into Sapio 365 to make your life easier as admins, of course. So I really hope you enjoyed this presentation. I know I didn't show you everything that we added, but I wanted to, you know, give you the highlights, I guess. Thank you so much for attending the webinar today. And if you have any questions, please, you know, send us an email to customer@whiteshare.com or, you know, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
And to recap these jobs that you were demonstrating, people can submit their requests for jobs.
Oh, yes, correct. Yes. So here's a super easy way to do that. In fact, if you have here, well, let's say we have one here. In any of these modules where you have jobs, you can just suggest a new job. You know, and we'll receive this, and you know, if we think it's a really nice idea, we'll implement it and spread it around.
Okay, so we have people dedicated to putting up new jobs. Time give us the feedback that again. Thanks for attending.
Thank you, everybody, so much. You've been great. Thanks.